Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Bethany Cheney, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for today's session. I run marketing here at TenMarks. I'm really pleased to have with me today Diane Murata. Diane is currently the middle and high school content manager at TenMarks. That means she's in charge of making sure that all middle and high school content is developed by her team. Prior to this, she was a curriculum developer and test developer at AIR. And before that, she taught high school for 10 years in New York City, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. So she brings to TenMarks a wealth of hands-on teaching experience, but then also experience developing curriculum and tests elsewhere. So we're really excited to have her as our presenter today. One thing is we're going to have in the 10 minutes, Diane will go through and cover different ways that you can reinforce concepts and improve outcomes leveraging TenMarks. At the end, we will be hosting a Q&A session. You should see on your control panel a questions section and a chat section. Feel free to post any questions or chat items in there, and at the end, I will be sure to pose them to Diane. And at this point, I will turn everything over to Diane so she can get started.
Again, thank you all for joining us in today's session on how TenMarks can help teachers reinforce concepts and improve outcomes. Today, we're going to be talking about how to reinforce concepts to improve outcomes. This will be through TenMarks Math, which can be found through the Create Assignments option when logging into your account. As you all begin your year, if you've taught the same grade level before, and even if you haven't, you probably already have an idea of how you organize your units for the year. It's very rare for teachers across the country to follow the same exact scope and sequence, and it's also unlikely that a teacher follows the exact order of the units in a textbook. With the ability to make your own units, you can now customize TenMarks to match your curriculum. For example, with states that have adopted Common Core, there's now a focus on coherence. Now you can build units the way you want so that concepts across the standards are more connected. When students see connections in what they're learning from one unit to the next, they can better retain these math concepts and skills. So let's say I'm a 7th grade teacher, and I teach in a performing arts middle school in a district that's adopted the Common Core curriculum. My school tends to have a lot of assemblies that happen last minute because the National Symphony Orchestra or some other really awesome visitor wants to perform at our school because they're in town. And what tends to happen when you have lots of assemblies, right? You lose teacher time. I want to plan out my year and make sure that I'm covering as many and the most essential math concepts that 7th graders need to know by the end of the year. As you all know, ParkandAchieve.org have released information that organizes the Common Core into major clusters, supporting clusters, and additional clusters. So I decide to order the topics in my curriculum based on that information. So what you all see here is how I've organized it in this slide, which you'll see in 7th grade, I have my major clusters that I'm going to cover first. With one-click assignments, it is now more convenient for teachers to create assignments quickly. When you already have an idea of the questions in an assignment and you know some of your students need more practice with certain concepts, you now have the chance to do this very quickly. It's my first week of school. It's been a little crazy, but I was able to teach a lesson on unit rate. I've already organized my units, so now there's no need to click around everywhere. I can now just quickly assign it from my list. We're always hoping that when a student doesn't understand a question, they ask for help. In each of our items, we have 3 hints that students can refer to if they are stuck on a problem. The hints not only help students answer questions, but when they use them, it demonstrates that they're taking ownership over their own learning. Teaching our students to use the hints reinforces the idea that it's okay to ask for help when you don't understand something. In one of my 7th grade classes, I noticed that whenever I ask them if they have questions after I go over a problem, all of a sudden I can only hear crickets. I want them to know it's okay to ask questions and encourage them to do so, especially the kids that I know who are really struggling. There are about 5 students in my class who scored way below average on the unit rate assignment. Emmy is one of my students, and when I ask her if she's used the hints to help her answer the problem, she says no. As she leaves, I figured that may be the same reason why the others may have also scored poorly, but they're too afraid to speak up. I realized this is an issue that I could confront without calling anyone out. As I'm preparing for the next day, I set up a dummy account. In the beginning of class, as I'm going over homework, my plan is to project one of the more difficult problems in my dummy assignment to the class. I click on the hints one at a time and have a volunteer read them, and maybe even call on some of the students who scored poorly on this assignment. After each hint, together we'll look at the problem to see if we get closer to answering the questions. One more way to reinforce learning and improve outcomes is through the use of our amplifiers. When students need more intervention after taking an assignment, they're automatically assigned an amplifier. This is one-to-one instruction that takes a student step by step through a concept to initiate learning and extend understanding. It provides students with the guidance they need to understand the concept from the beginning to the end. Vince's score was a 20%, so he was assigned an amplifier. I organized a time to meet with him so that I can oversee how things go when he takes the amplifier. I tell him this is sort of like a test so that he can try to do this without asking me any questions. I like that after 1 or 2 screens of instruction, it asks him a question to check for understanding. I also like that it scaffolds a concept for him with a question at the end that ties it all together. Now, after completing the amplifier, going over the hints and videos, I'm hoping that he does much better on his do-over assignment. Most importantly, I hope that this has taught him how to ask questions, learn how to work independently when he needs to, and have a deeper level of understanding of unit rate. I want to go back for a second and also just address the videos. And we're always hoping that when a student doesn't understand a question, our items also have videos. They have, so in these videos, it goes through the instruction. And what we could do, so let's say I have Vince in my class, and he is still struggling, and he's a type of student that can answer questions in class, but when he goes home, he can't work independently. So what I do is I will have him come after class, and then we'll look at a video together. And what we'll do is answer the question together for the first time around. Then the second time around, what I'll do is in my dummy account that I've set up, I'll just find a more difficult question, and this time around I'll have him try to work on it independently using the video. After a class completes an assignment, you can view the top 3 common mistakes that your students made. This gives you an idea of which concepts you may need to reteach or even spend more time on. You can also identify which students are committing those mistakes. I have about 10 7th graders in my class that generally grasp the concepts really well and often do well on their TenMarks assignments. This time around, I find that these same students are included on a list next to some of these top 3 common mistakes. I'm a little surprised, so I look back on their assignments and go over these problems with the entire class to make sure everyone gets it. Chances are that if my students who usually get concepts don't, then the rest of my class must be struggling too. I also noticed that in some cases, the top 3 common mistakes also include keywords that relate to concepts. So what I could do is go back to my curriculum page and search for tracks that include these keywords so that my students can get more practice with these concepts that I notice most of them are struggling with. I hope this gives everyone a better idea of how you can use some of the TenMarks math features to help reinforce concepts and improve outcomes. Thank you all again for your time, and now we're going to move to the Q&A portion.